You're listening to Rookie Pirate Radio, the official anime and manga podcast for InBetweenDrafts.com. I'm John Negroni.
And I'm Travis Hymas.
And today we're doing a manga recap of One Piece chapter 1103, titled, I'm Sorry, Daddy. And Travis, I also have to say that I'm sorry for missing the latest podcast episode. What a one to miss. But hey, thanks for coming in and punching the schedule in the face.
Yeah, we got it done. We can say we haven't missed a manga recap yet, and I do appreciate Quinn stepping in and just gushing with me about how good that last chapter was.
It was a bit of a love fest, different energy to be sure. Because if I had been there, I probably would have been like the cantankerous old, grump. You know what I mean? Just being like, all right, Travis, let's take it down a peg. But instead, you got enthusiastic Quinn.
Yeah,
who's like nice and yeah. But no, I'm back and I'm here to, make a bunch of wild claims and then pretend I never made them weeks later. Everybody knows. Travis, lots of stuff been going on in One Piece. I should probably explain where I've been. I was overseas. I was in Thailand and Taiwan. And if you're probably like, oh, John, you must have had a good time. Your voice is a bit hoarse. Well, it's not because I was yelling and screaming and doing karaoke. No, I was not doing my favorite activities because I may or may not have gotten the coronavirus in Thailand, of all places. And so part of my trip was derailed and I was alone doing nothing for a big stretch of the trip. But hey, still had a good time. Didn't love Thailand, but Taiwan was a lot of fun. And here I am now.
Well, I'm glad you're on the upswing, that's for sure.
I will say, Taiwan full of big One Piece fans, and I got a chance to check out the latest volume that just came out. It's Egghead arc, and I didn't buy it, but I just kind of took a little bit of a peek. And yeah, I'm excited to read that volume once it comes out. And also, Travis Hymas, the anime... One Piece anime. So much stuff has been going on. Did we talk about the remake that they're going to do, first of all? I forget.
We have not. We have not discussed that at all.
Yeah, they're doing a remake. I feel like we have to incorporate that into Rookie Pirate Radio somehow. How could we not?
I mean, I'm glad to know that once we get to the end of the manga, we do not have to end this show.
True.
Rookie Pirate Radio forever, 1,000 years Rookie Pirate Radio. But,
our kids will be hosting this podcast.
Yeah, but like I confess the first thing that left my mouth when I saw this was, oh God, I've lived long enough to see One Piece Brotherhood happen.
I feel like that we shouldn't have had to wait this long for One Piece Brotherhood, considering. But no, actually, I would say that this is more like One Piece Kai in a way, isn't it? It sounds like they're going to be doing the Dragon Ball Kai thing.
Well, so Dragon Ball Kai is just taking the Toei animation and recutting it.
That's true.
So
this
that
is going to be like a totally different style, huh? Well, didn't they update some of the animation too in Kai? I forget because it's been so long.
I think they cleaned some stuff up, but its primary purpose was to cut the screaming. Like
right.
That's just what it is.
Whereas Full Alchemist, Blood Brotherhood was a total revamp.
I would I joke about it being One Piece Brotherhood because I love making that joke in general.
It's a fun joke.
I did the same. It's a fun joke. Like when they did the Fruits Basket remake, it's the same thing. It's just like it's just really funny when they're like, oh, let's go actually make this thing that you remember for being good, but actually good this time.
Didn't they remake Fruits Basket like 5 times or something?
Yeah, but this last one is the first time they ever saw it all the way through. It didn't get canceled or something. So that's kind of why I use that analogy. But this is kind of, I would maybe peg this as something closer to like David Productions' redo of Urusei Yatsura, where it's just like they're going to be 2 entirely different series, where like everything from the direction to like the only difference is going to be theoretically that the source material be followed. I'm loath to say more accurately because it's not true. The anime is very accurate.
Yeah.
It's just it's different when you know the destination. You know what I mean? They could potentially focus and adjust in different ways that the original Toei production just literally couldn't. Case in point, the current what just started in the anime, they seem to have finally embraced just looking forward and owning that in a way that they've never done before. Whereas the WIT Studio version will just be able to go ham because it's going to know 90 to 95% of the story, Oda said that this remake is going to be like several years out potentially. Like this is not a thing that's happening like next year. So it's kind of like, we'll see how this goes. I am just a little bit, because of the two of us, I am the true curmudgeon. The second thing that I thought to myself when I saw this immediately after that, making that joke, was, hey, wait a minute, didn't Wit and Netflix make that AI thing earlier last year? And I had to Google it, and yeah, they did. That was them. So
forgot about that.
I am nervous.
All have sinned and fall short of the glory of Oda. I have two thoughts on this. One is that on the positive side, I really appreciate that this is going to be that stepping stone that fans of the live action will probably need, because let's face it, there are a lot of people who watch the live action who enjoyed it and are like, all right, I'm ready to dive into One Piece proper because I'm hooked. But then they look at the amount of episodes, they look at the rough early art style, which to us is charming. It's nostalgia. We grew up on it, whatever. But to a lot of other people, it's a stumbling stone. And I get it. I'm like that with other series. So I'm excited in that realm, because that means more One Piece fans, more people coming along. On the more negative side, I just feel like, look, I'm not the biggest Toei fan. I think Toei has, made a lot of decisions and done a lot of things that I'm not a fan of whatsoever. And that's not to speak of the directors and the different animators and those folks who are really in the trenches. But I do feel like this is a bit of a slap in their face, a slap in the face of the artisans behind the anime who, I know that some have kind of spoken out even anonymously about this and been like, man, like this is kind of degrade. It feels like they're kind of degrading us or saying we're not good enough, right? All this work we put in. And so it's a little bit messy. I do think that it's kind of funny how this is happening too, like right when the Egghead arc has just kicked off in the anime. And it looks fantastic. The new art style that they're employing, that I didn't even realize, or suspect that they were going to kind of do what they did with Wano and kind of just do a totally new art style. And it was shades of stuff that they experimented with in Wano. I think that there's an animator director who did a few episodes during Wano who's now overseeing things. I forget her name.
For your Ishitani. So you're thinking of Megumi Ishitani.
Megumi Ishitani. Yes, thank you.
That there's I have like a whole like draft for the site that we write for.
But you're in between the drafts.
Yeah, just literally doing just gushing about that OP by itself, because it's one of the most, I think genuinely one of the most incredible pieces of animation I think I've seen in a long time, if maybe ever. I'm not going to lie. Like, it's become my personality the past several days.
Oh my
so I get what you're saying there. 'Cause like they announced it. It feels too soon is what it feels like. It's like, that's never happened before. A remake getting announced before they even like finished the original. That's definitely new territory.
But I mean, it's One Piece. It doesn't operate by the same rules as everything else. The thing I'm wondering too is that if this new one is going to have seasons, if it's going to be more streamlined to kind of follow the more modern, hey, shonen anime doesn't have to come out every single week of the year kind of format, which I'm okay with. And I think that I was never the biggest fan of the movies, like episode of East Blue, episode of Saba, like all that stuff, just because it cuts out so much that I can't even recommend it. Right. So I don't know. I think that this will be good. If people who love One Piece will still have that, and then people who just want to be purists and watch the whole original series for the first time or rewatch or whatever, they can do that too. So at least there are choices. That's the thing.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's one of those things where, like, ironically, there's not a good, like, a perfect way to engage with this story, which is really weird to think about. Like, I will tell anybody all day long, just read it. It is the primary source for a reason. It's just the best way to do it. But some people are just never going to do that. Yeah. Like, there are Lord of the Rings fans who will never sit down and read those books. It's just not.
They will spend thousands of dollars in cosplay, dress up as Aragorn, but they cannot seemingly read the books. And you know what? I have no judgment.
And yeah, it's just it's Oda's ultimate grand plan, right? It's to try to make this story as available as possible while he's still here to make sure that it's done right. I mean, what
medium is left, right? There's been light novels, there's been movies, there's been audiobooks,
productions, there's been Universal Studios rides,
video games, every medium possible.
If there is a medium that I would still love One Piece to get its act together in, it would be video games. Now that you mention it, we got
Odyssey was a
really
good
close.
stepping stone.
We got really close there with Odyssey. I think, ironically, that's the place where I feel like they should go the most off the beaten path and just not follow the story. But
Right.
That's a different podcast episode. I think we did that one.
Well, okay. I think that for this episode, we should be free to talk about this manga recap. And I'm very excited to talk about it. I'm very excited just because I feel like I kind of took a longer break from One Piece than normal. I don't usually go this long without talking about the chapters with you, Travis. But here we are. I'm happy about that at the very least. So let's get into it. I'm going to be reading off the main beats, kind of paraphrasing from the wiki this time, since I didn't have time to write my own, unfortunately. But let's follow along. Should be fun. All right, so we do start off this chapter with a pretty fun cover spread. I didn't analyze the cover spread at all. I'm not reading into it in terms of like seeing Momo and seeing Yamato and all that, and eating yakitori, and it feels like a fun little nod to Wano as we're firmly like away from Wano, like after Egghead. Like we have just kind of moved into Egghead in the anime. They had the whole sort of like sum up filler episode from Wano. I feel like, we're in a good place with that. We can kind of leave Wano behind for now, if you agree.
Yeah, this is just because it's the Year of the Dragon. Like, that's all this is. Like, even the jump
right,
cover
Zoro
art
has the shirt
this week. Yeah, like, that's all this really is. Which is fun. It's like, yeah, of course you would bring these two characters in for this particular
a little premature because the Chinese New Year hasn't happened yet, but,
That's just jump for you. Like I said, it was across the board for them.
But okay, let's get into the chapter proper here. So we cut to actually the recent past, the moment when Bonney saw the whole flashback. So the last chapter kind of revealed that the whole Kuma flashback was kind of this amalgamation between Bonney's memories and the memory bubble of Kuma, which I think we kind of suspected. I think we essentially put that together. I'm not even sure if we like belabored it because it seemed pretty obvious, but either way, we are now at the point where Vegapunk has been saved by the Straw Hats and everything, and he and Bonney have their sort of like reconciliation moment that we were curious about back when the chapter kind of cut forward in time and Bonney was in, that room with everybody, and we cut forward. So now we're getting that payoff. So we see Bonney emerging from the room where she got everything in terms of the memories. Dr. Vegapunk asks if she saw everything. She confirms that she did. Vegapunk apologizes for breaking his promise with Kuma, but to his surprise, Bonney, who is now a child, her real form, hugs him and apologizes. Vegapunk shows Bonney the thing he planned on giving her, which is a sapphire necklace that looks like the sun, which Kuma intended to be her 10th birthday gift. Cue the tears. Bonney is extremely happy to receive it and states that she will always cherish it. I didn't get a chance, by the way, to kind of pontificate on like some of that stuff that happened in the last chapter, but yeah, I mean, it was gut-wrenching stuff. And honestly, like, it pained me a little bit as a little bit of an aside when you two were like, oh, I don't know if she's going to be a Straw Hat. We don't agree with John. I mean, it broke my heart. That's okay.
I can't join that fan club quite yet. But like, it's getting more and more difficult. It's getting more and more difficult every day to not join up.
Okay, so after all of this happens, Vegapunk muses on how strong Luffy has become after his years of training. Bonney asks if Luffy is the son of Dragon, who is Kuma's friend. Dr. Vegapunk confirms that, but he never imagined the two of them would come to Egghead together. He tells her that lots of things happened when she went into the room, and he will tell her everything while they rejoin the Straw Hat Pirates. He apologizes to Bonney for his actions with Kuma, but Bonney tells him that it was never his fault. All the fault falls on J. Garcia Saturn, and she is correct about that. Yeah, I mean, chalking it up to fate. Fate is such a strange thing sometimes, because it is pretty wild too, watching in the anime. Like, Bonney just happened to be in the War Medi, and they just happened to save her, and it's a bit convenient, but that's One Piece for you.
Isn't it? Just fate itself. We've discussed fate before in this series.
Mm-hmm. Fate, destiny, those 4-letter words. Okay, so we cut to the present, not literally 4-letter words, but people catch my drift. We cut back to the present, and so this is the real present, and Saturn coldly tells Bonney that Kuma is dead. The Straw Hats and the Vegapunks are still unable to move. I believe it's just Atlas who's there at this point in terms of the Vegapunks and then the OG Vegapunk. Luffy starts asking for food. Kizaru shows concern for Vegapunk and Bonney, and it is announced that Sentomaru has been captured. Outside of Egghead, people are reading the news about the siege, while on Momoro Island, Dragon asks Ivankov where he thinks Kuma would go if he still had a fragment of his natural instincts. And Ivankov says that if he were Kuma, he would go to Marijoa. Dragon, however, knows that Kuma is different, almost as if he suspects where he might go. I guess this is fueling people's theories that Dragon's going to go to Egghead, but I mean, with what teleportation device, people, like, what are you talking about? I don't get that at all. Back on Egghead, Bonney, and I'm talking about the people who are saying he's going to show up during this fight. Like, okay. Back on Egghead, Bonney tells Saturn that if she is going to die, she will kill him no matter what as well, and uses distortion future. And so she tries to be like Nika again. She grows her fist pretty large, but her enlarged fist disappears and she becomes weak again. And Saturn crushes her in his hand. He tells her that he's not surprised that Bonney knows the name of Nika since she's Kuma's daughter, but he does say that she doesn't know what that is exactly. And while he thinks that she has not drawn the connection between Nika and Luffy's transformation in her mind, he then notices Luffy eating food and orders the Marines to restrain him with Sea Stone. Bonney wonders why she can't alter her age around Saturn, and he reveals to her that he was the one who gave her this power. So our suspicion that she didn't just eat a devil fruit in the church that showed up was correct. I forget, Travis, if either of us speculated that she was experimenting. I think we did say something along the lines of like something happened when she was with her mother before she arrived, but I don't remember what we said exactly.
I believe we did call out specifically that it's weird that she just had it, like even though it parallels Luffy. I want to say you brought it up. I want to say that you did bring up the idea that like Bonney herself was also a subject, not just Ginny. That sounds right.
We might have accidentally been smart is our point, but we would have to reread. We'd have to listen to the tape. So Saturn says he conducted an experiment on her as a baby to give her the powers of the Toshi Toshi no Mi without actually having her eat it. And while it was a success, he deemed the fruit worthless. He says that while the user can transform however they want regarding the foreseeable future, its abilities weaken when their knowledge of the future differs from reality. He asks her if she wants to believe in Nika, but Bonney declares Nika is real because she swore she would find him to save Kuma from his control. But Saturn says she is starting to believe he isn't real. How could she not be a Straw Hat after this? Like, her whole arc would be that she's growing old and she doesn't... I don't... She has to join. We got to get through the beats. Get through the beats. Hang in there. Sorry. Saturn then tells her that Nika is nothing but a worthless buccaneer legend and quotes what Kuma said to him way back on God Valley to her. He also reveals another horrifying revelation. He was the one who infected Ginny with sapphire scales. That's not the biggest surprise, which was a side effect from a failed experiment he conducted on her. But he was surprised to see Bonney inheriting the disease. Bonney says that everything she went through was all Saturn's fault, and Dr. Vegapunk becomes extremely livid that Saturn's heartless experiments are what caused Kuma to give away his free will in the first place. I mean, Vegapunk, what did you expect, dude? It's the five elders. Like, I don't know. He's acting all surprised that they're sadistic and evil. Okay. Saturn, however, simply says he cannot understand the feelings of a mere insect. Just then, Kuma arrives on Egghead, much to the shock of the government. He starts making his way to the center of the island where Saturn is, as the Marines try to inform everyone about this development. Saturn does not believe Kuma could have come here, while Dr. Vegapunk is confused why he's here at all. As he continues to charge forward while the Marines shoot him, Bonney thinks that she should just die because of everything Kuma went through. She starts crying loudly, but Saturn demands she shut up and order the Marines to shoot her head off. But then she yells, "I want to live!" And then Kuma shoots a flag and declares war on the... Oh, sorry, that's a different arc. My bad. Before they can shoot, Kuma blows them all away, so Saturn throws Bonney to the ground and prepares to impale her with his leg. However, Kuma arrives in the nick of time to block the attack with his own body before pulling Saturn's leg out of his back and grabbing it. He hardens his fist with Bushoku Haki and prepares to punch a terrified Saturn. We don't see the punch happen, and one thing that this leaves out too is that somebody has been giving Luffy food, and so we have a mystery of the week. Or 2 weeks since we were on break. So we're not going to have 1104 for a little while. But yeah, we'll have fun stuff to speculate on. But yeah, Travis Hymas, big episode, very focused chapter of the manga. We don't cut to a lot of different places, not a ton of characters. This is firmly focused on Vegapunk, Bonney, and Saturn.
Yeah, and I guess let's get it out of your system. Let's talk about Bonney and her status.
Future cabin apprentice of the Straw Hat Pirates.
Yeah. Okay.
Someone's got to eat all of Sanji's food. Help. Yeah, there's got to be the glutton trio. Luffy, Chopper, and Jewelry Bonney. Why can't we have a glutton trio? Why not?
I mean, because they do need to survive at sea. But
we know that Oda wants to have. Go ahead. The argument against.
I was gonna say, no, I talked about this last week, but talking about it with you again, it's one of those things where, to me anyway, it's either going to be it's not happening or Oda has changed his mind. I don't think this is a situation where something was planned, but we've been here before, right? We've been here in the so and so is going to join the crew, and all of this is not notwithstanding the fact that Vivi is out there and presumably will also rejoin the crew at some point. So for me to say this is it, we have the full Straw Hats, is just technically wrong, which is the worst kind of wrong for many reasons, but chiefly that technically we haven't filled out the crew. Technically we're not at the end of the story. But I there's still just that little aching part of me that just doesn't want to let it go. They just did in the anime. They did the episode where Luffy says his dream and reinforces that this is a big deal. This is a thing that he hasn't shared with many people. This is supposed to be kind of this big moment for the crew to really understand their captain. And I don't know if we have to replicate that again with somebody else. I just don't know if it
we will. Well, because when the reader, here's the argument for, because we can have Bonney be our surrogate as readers because we don't know Luffy's dream. So she could be the one to receive that information, Travis, at a certain
we could have received. We don't need anyone for that because we've had plenty of surrogates. We had, again, Yamato is a great parallel to this. The Yamato cope is real. It's back here on the cover page of just for a hot stinking minute there, it really felt like that was going to happen. And even now, I'm not sure if Oda changed his mind or if this was just always the plan. It's really difficult to say. Not that I'm necessarily this was a terrible decision, because I honestly would have been fine either way, but I'm I don't, after Jinbei joining the crew and Vivi would technically be our 10th member, and with everything that it's going to take to get her back to the crew, I'm just so stuck on how many more people can we squeeze in to do this.
Well, again, I don't think Vivi's going to be I don't think Vivi's going to be a member in the same way that, Jinbei is. I think that she's going to be an ace kind of figure that they're all going to rally together to help, because they've already sort of preempted that, right?
Definitely a part of the crew. She's you're opening up a way more complicated can of worms than I am if you're to say Vivi's not a Straw Hat.
She's not. She hasn't gotten her box. Yeah. So I'm just saying, I think that she's out there as a periphery honorary. She has her Straw Hat doctorate, sure, but Bonnie's gone to Straw Hat University. She did the 4 years. We got not that Vivi didn't get a whole saga for herself, but I think the reason I'm more compelled by Bonney joining than I was by Yamato or Carrot or any of these other characters who came along is I just see the potential for her character and what she adds to the story just being way more significant. And I think that Yamato, we do kind of close the book on that character pretty succinctly. I don't think there's a lot left for Yamato because their whole thing kind of revolved around Kaido. It kind of revolved around being the next Odin. And so moving on from Wano, there wasn't much else with the character. But with Bonney, I think there's just so much impact that she has on the story by comparison, and so much room to grow. She's not this like extremely powerful character that's going to overshadow, Sanji and Zoro or something. Like, she is a character who's going to come in and I think have a role to play that's very specific and very niche. But I look, going into Egghead, I was the last person who would have said any of this. I never was a big fan of Bonney. I don't think a lot of people were, because we barely knew her. But I think that this arc has like completely sold me, and there hasn't been a moment where someone's like, join the crew, or she's gonna be like, I'm joining the crew. Like, there's not been a tease like that in the same way. So that's my thesis, and I plan to have it published in a few journals. Cope Monthly.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it really does remain to be seen. I don't think she's gonna die. Clearly that's not happening. If this chapter was not succinctly clear about that, she's not going to die. She has to at least leave with the crew. That seems to be like our only option. Because like I severely doubt that like the Blackbeard pirates that are there are interested in her at this point, because like we've been here with her before. So like that's probably not it. So like her character has to go somewhere. This is not a place where we can just leave her and move on like other arcs. So whatever else happens, she's leaving on that ship, provided everybody leaves on that ship at all. But that's a whole different conversation. So like that I will grant you, but I don't know. I'm still kind of ski-wampus about it. I think.
The other argument is okay.
Oh no, go ahead.
There was a bit of a gag, but I mean, it's a pirate anime. We have to have at least one pink-haired character on the ship.
Right. One alt character. I mean, you know what I would really like to see, because this is something that I think most of the characters get some sort of aspect to, is I would like to see her fight, which we haven't really gotten to do yet.
What are you talking about? We see her fight all the time. She turned into Nika. She took down Alpha. She transformed Marines into babies.
I mean like a fight, like an actual like Bonney versus X that gets put on the Wikia, broken down like an actual fight. Like we get that for most of the characters, and it's just I would say maybe the exception to that would be Robin, but that was because
I was about to mention Robin.
Kind of it. Well, Robin's joining was
didn't really
literally
either,
meant to be an upset. No, he fought in Drum.
In Alabasta, but did he in Drum Island have a 1v1?
Yeah, he fought. Like he did. He fought in Drum.
Oh, that's been a while since I read it. Okay.
He fought the fusion thing that Wapol made.
I know Frankie did.
Because it's kind of the old structure that they would do, is they would use the fight, like the situation on the island, to put that character in a fight to establish what their combat style was, and then that would basically sell them on the crew.
Well, Bonney kind of got that with Alpha, and she's fighting Saturn right now.
Well, yeah. It's just it doesn't have the same kind of like carved out structure to it.
If she has a carved out structure fight with one of the, what if it's with one of the Vice Admirals? Would that appease you?
I mean, that would be closer to what I'm referring to, but I also don't think this breaks out into like mini battles like we've seen other arcs do. So that's kind of, maybe what I'm coming around to is like, if Bonney does join the crew, it's not at the end of this arc. Maybe that's what I'm trying to get to.
Let's segue then into that, the whole like what happens next with this stuff. And I think we can probably speculate that Kuma is gonna try to take down Saturn, but I mean, there's no way he can win. So how does this play out? I know we speculated in the past that Kuma will show up. We've talked about him taking on the pain bubble. I think we speculated that maybe he takes all the pain from the memory bubble and puts it on Saturn. There was even, a reminder from Oda in 1102 that the bubble can still like be experienced. Like Bonney was able to like take on the memories without evaporating the bubble. So we know that that's a thing. We know that it's still intact. We also know that Kuma has a self-destruct feature. He could take himself and Saturn out and have this big thing that could be the incident, right? The destruction of Egghead Island, the death of one of the 5 elders, like that would certainly qualify for the kind of like future, headline that we already know about, that something huge is going to go down. So where are you at with this? Do you think one of these, it's going to be one of these? I know the story's kind of setting up that Luffy's going to Nika it up and show up and do his thing and fight and do all that. But I don't know. I don't think that this comes down to like Luffy 1v1ing Saturn and winning either.
Yeah, it does. That's kind of the big thing. I do have to correct you just a little bit, because otherwise the Discord will.
I mean, it's Rookie Bad Radio.
Kuma says in 1102, it will vanish once touched. So Vegapunk was able to go in and poke around in there because of his instruments, but because Bonney made physical contact with it, it's gone.
Is it gone for sure?
Yeah,
we know for sure. Wait,
that seems
to say that
it's gone because she makes physical contact with it.
But she doesn't take on all the like pain and stuff, right? So otherwise she would be gone. She'd be dead.
It's memories, right? It's different than pain.
I'm looking at the panel. Yeah, I don't see the
pain.
Yeah, I don't see the bubble anymore. So yeah, you might have me there, guy.
Yeah, it's the bubble, like what Zoro took as physical pain, right? Like he extracted Luffy's physical wounds.
But didn't Vegapunk warn Bonney about this, that being too much for her at a certain point?
Well, yeah, because
just emotionally, that's all he meant.
It was barely. I mean, it was almost too much for us, of course.
But that's fine, because we do still have the self-destruct thing. I think that's already been set up properly, and that's all you really need, huh?
Yeah, I think because we talked about it last week a little bit while you were gone, about that little personality switch, and whether or not Vegapunk snuck it in. I think his reaction here suggests no.
Right. So we still don't have an explanation. Yeah, why is Kuma doing this?
Yeah, well, I mean, hockey, that's new. Hockey is new. That's interesting. Is it just his sheer willpower? Is that what we're going for?
I don't know, because
it's a lingering will.
Wasn't something activated though within him, like very specifically, that like summoned him to this place?
That's the impression that we get, because what we were doing way back, feels like a million years, but like the interactions with the robot, like discovering the robot and like Luffy being near it and Kuma activating, for lack of a better term here, seem to be the same moment, at least is how the manga juxtaposes it. So we all read into that there was a connection there. However, since then, there hasn't been a direct line drawn. We've just been extrapolating based on kind of like the sequence of events. So that could still be a factor. Or it would be one of those things where, like, now that Saturn is directly involved and like is heavily implying that he kind of already knows this stuff, I would wonder if Vegapunk was bold enough to like replicate any of that technology and Saturn not notice. It would be very funny if he did, because he keeps saying over and over again, "Don't try to trick me. I'm a scientist too." So I really want Vegapunk to get one over on him. That would be particularly fun for me.
So that's perfect, because that's exactly what I was going to bring up, was the whole Iron Giant thing. We know that Vegapunk knows that there was some kind of programming with that robot that had him attack Mary Joa. We've seen the parallel already with Kuma kind of going through it. And yeah, we've speculated on this before. And if there was something that Vegapunk did, okay. I still wonder, though, if it's even beyond that. Like, if it's not just some kind of programming thing that Kuma put in, because we already had the flashback where he's like, oh, and one last thing, I want to protect the Sunny. There wasn't anything after that. It'd be kind of weird if it was like, oh yeah, there was one other thing. Like, I don't know. I just feel like there's something else that like almost wasn't planned, or that like no one saw coming, including Kuma, that like has something to do with fate or beyond programming.
It's what Kaido said, right? At the end of the day, the most powerful force, the powers don't really matter. None of this matters as much as hockey. So like, is that just what it is? Like Kuma, again, I mentioned this, I think, while you were here. Kuma's undefeated as far as we can tell. In the official record, which is which is kind of hard to pull off here in One Piece. So
we're not counting when he got beat up as a slave.
Well, yeah, sure. That was, I would not consider that, like even valid.
Yeah.
But, just for the sake of power scaling here and ranking it, he's undefeated. He's completely undefeated and has taken on at least a sizable group of people, if not powerful individuals. So the idea that he's not a hockey user, even though we've never seen him do it, is, of course he is. That only makes sense. I do think it's notable that he makes a fist. He doesn't fight open-handed. This isn't a use of the pawpaw fruit or anything like that. He has clenched his fist, presumably symbolic, to tie into Oda, like making the point that like the man who was behind all of this intentionally. By the way, I called it the cruelty was the point. I knew it. Anyway.
Yeah, it's true.
But like now that he's face to face with this man who is personally responsible for all of his misery, he clenches his fist in response. Like that's really good, even just from a visual standpoint. But that it's hockey. I really think it's just one of these things that not even Vegapunk could account for. It's the question that this entire project and like this arc when it comes to Kuma has posited the entire time. What is a soul? What is the weight of that? What does that mean? I think that the story is going to give us something resembling an answer to that.
Well, the other factor we can throw in there is the fact that he's surrounded by clouds. Did he awaken his devil fruit? Does that have something to do with how he's all of a sudden apparently, showing emotion too? I mean, he clearly like protecting Bonney and then wanting to strike Saturn. He is acting like a person. He's not acting like his will is gone. So if he awakened his devil fruit, and I can't even imagine what implications the pawpaw fruit being awakened would have.
I had not even considered that.
He's got the clouds.
I guess I didn't read them as clouds. I read it as like smoke from like the various attacks on everything on him. But
right, but
fairness,
it's ambiguous
I didn't. Well, yeah, like that's what I was going to say is like I hadn't read it that way, but I don't know that you. Oh man, the cloud stuff is so hard because like for a while it didn't really seem like it meant anything, and then it meant everything, and then we were confused.
Classic One Piece.
It's still not clear if Kaido was awakened. You know what I mean? Like that is still completely ambiguous and up for debate as far as I know. So like, yeah, that's an interesting idea. It would be fun to discover that this was secretly a Zoan and now its will is taking over. That would be fun.
Well, you can awaken in Paramecia, so it could be that.
Well, yeah, I just mean like
we don't have confirmation, I guess.
Yeah, to explain the behavior, I guess. Or okay, let me go a little bit harder on this because this now I'm playing with this idea a little bit. What if okay, I'm trying to piece this together. What if the fruit is inspired by Kuma?
Inspired by?
Yeah, so
he's becoming a Zoan in real time?
Yeah, what if his will is manifesting in the fruit? What if it can change?
Because
like
that would be cool.
Like
I mean, in dreams, wishes, we have some setup for that.
We set that up. What if something is changing the fruit's properties in real time? Like Kuma's, like just his own, love transmuted that fruit somehow.
See, that would be more satisfying than an out of nowhere he's able to do this explanation, just because this whole arc has been about devil fruits. Not all about, but it's definitely touched on that a lot. And we were kind of promised a little bit more explanation for how the devil fruits work. And it would be a payoff to kind of for Vegapunk in real time to be like, oh my gosh, like we're watching, a devil fruit evolve essentially. Like if he added another wrinkle to all this stuff, that'd be kind of cool. Especially because if anybody could do something like that, it would be Kuma, but it's probably like a cataclysmic move. It's probably something akin to like what we see in like Boruto. Not to spoil what happens in that, but like something with a high high set of consequences, let's say.
Yeah, I'm probably like way out of left field now, but it
I
that's
like
an
it.
interesting idea. Is like not just that he's awakening it, but that like he has somehow influenced it back because we've talked a lot lately about like Zoans specifically and their will, but like I'm kind of on board with this idea that like if devil fruits are the manifestation of people's dreams, then like theoretically you could reflect that back, or like inherit
Oh,
it could inherit a will.
if it's not, what if the fruit inherited Kuma's will? And
That's
so
yeah,
that's what you're saying. So basically,
yeah.
the fruit has personified, and so even though Kuma himself is effectively dead, the fruit has the memories. It's sort of like taken form around him, and it's almost like he's personified by the fruit now. That would be pretty clutch.
Yeah, that would be cool. It's like literalizing kind of what happens in Dressrosa when Sabo gets the Marimero no Mi and you know starts kind of immediately replicating Ace's attacks.
And that's
which,
not
you know,
totally out of left field, right? In the sense
Yeah.
of like, you know, Chopper eats, you know, the human fruit, and like objects have eaten fruits, and also the Going Merry literally came alive. Like it's not that out of left field, right?
Right. It's one of those things where like we could do this and Oda doesn't necessarily have to have like rock solid, ironically, science about this. Like
Yeah,
this
he'll let
could
us
be
do
the
that.
thing. Yeah, like
he'll just go to
would be
Reddit and be like, "All right, did y'all figure out what I wanted?"
somebody figure it out. But like it's one of those things because like when you start talking about like the science of like what is a soul, right? Like there's not a concrete answer because it's kind of an esoteric question.
Yeah, it's a big of a TBD thing. Humanity is working on.
Right. Yeah, so this could be kind of that climax to this future island idea that like, hey, there is stuff that doesn't have an answer to this yet, and it's stuff that nobody on this island could account for, and it's something akin to a miracle.
I'm going to read this from Blue Dan Bob, who said, "I'd love for Kuma to unload all of the pain he's absorbed throughout his entire life into that." He's a cuss word, so I won't say it. Which I think could, if the fruit came alive, it theoretically would be able to take all that pain and do something along those lines. So yeah, theory could help. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it could also be the thing that gets them off the island. We've discussed this before, but if it is able to make decisions, then it could be our escape route.
Hmm.
And then initiate the self-destruct.
Pikeman said, "Want Saturn to get away after taking a beating, only to get killed by his fellow elders for being weak due to losing on Egghead Island." That's interesting.
Ooh,
I like that. Well, because it would be a little bit more, hype.
Ooh.
Hmm.
That's an interesting one. Ooh, I like that.
Or not even the other elders, but Emu. You know.
Yeah, it would probably be Emu, but that's fine. Emu needs more screen time, in my opinion.
Emu,
so I'm cool with that.
They really took the Lulusia thing in the anime and just went with it because that was whoa,
buddy! I got
so
scared. I was like, I've been waiting. I was like, I've been waiting for this, and they did not disappoint. Oh my goodness! I can't wait till we get to hear Emu speak. Oh, I cannot wait. They're gonna fake us out with like some sort of like completely androgynous voice too, and it's going to be fantastic.
Heart of Dawnlight said that punch gonna hit like Luffy's on Sharlos.
Yeah, I was telling my spouse that like I expect that if this connects, right, I expect it to be more satisfying than that, and I call that I regularly refer to that as the greatest punch in One Piece.
But is it going to connect? That's the thing we don't know, because usually Oda ends like shows the actual impact, right?
Yeah, like this is I mean, it's great tension building. Like Oda knows how to end a break chapter like so well, and it's just I'm hyped, and also there's that part of me that's like I still feel like this ends bad. Like every single little triumph has this little sense of an asterisk next to it of like, we still have to get out of here. We still have to find a way off this island. We have to lose the Marines. We have to lose an Elder Star. we have to do this while holding like an incredibly valuable asset, one that, like we talked about last week, the government has to kill at this point. They cannot let him leave under any circumstances.
Well, yeah, they're going to try the authority chip first, and I'm guessing that that's not going to work.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I'm curious why. Well, I guess Akainu wouldn't have that. Like, it wasn't on that level with the pacifistas or Kuma, huh? It would have to be like,
it would,
yeah.
I mean, the admirals would still step in, but Vegapunk would be above the admirals. So, like, letting a Vegapunk that's not under their control out is just like, forget the Void Century investigation stuff. Like, that itself is just, imagine if Dragon got a hold of that.
By the way, we still have the Seraphim locked up, like not that far away, and so we kind of have these loaded guns like right there.
There's so many little bombs still ready to go off. We still don't know where Caribou is, unless he's the one providing food again, which I only hope not, because I don't want Oda to repeat a joke. But it's whatever. But he's still running around.
The popular theory is that Kizaru is the one giving Luffy the food. That's what people are.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. Straw Hat Luffy 7 brought this up. Said, I knew Kizaru was going to flip. He's definitely the one who brought the food to Luffy. Kuma showing up to save Bonney had me in tears again. I can't wait to see that punch land. It's going to be incredibly satisfying. Another masterpiece of a chapter. The peak fiction never stops. There's a little bit more, a lot of fun there. But yeah, no, I don't think it's 100% that it's Kizaru. I don't know, because okay. What would cause Kizaru to flip at this point? Because I know we've talked about before that like he kind of was holding back a bit. He could have killed Vegapunk and probably purposely missed. He probably could have like given Luffy the slip multiple times, but he kind of let things happen just to have enough plausible deniability. But he's still an unclear justice guy, and I don't know if this is enough. Like, I don't know if it's enough for him to be like, oh, I want Luffy to, unless it's the Nika thing where he's kind of like, I don't know. I know I'm the one who kind of brought that up of like, oh, maybe he's secretly a believer, the Church of Kuma.
I think this is I think it's a for some irony. I think it's a come to Jesus moment a little bit.
Come to Nika moment.
Yeah,
I want him to look at Saturn and be like, why? And he's just like, I don't know. Not clear.
Yeah, I don't think it's a heel turn. I think it is. Some people have hypothesized that he cares more about Sentomaru and Bonney specifically because they're young, younger in Sentomaru's case. That there may just be some attachment there that isn't there for Vegapunk,
or it could just be Kizaru a Sasuke whim.
It could be. Vegapunk and Kizaru are interesting in that they are both absolutely sellouts. Like you pointed out, Vegapunk is like incised at the reality of Saturn. And I think that that's a legitimate reaction because he thought he was doing the best he could for the world. Like, even if the world government wasn't like 110% on the up and up, at the very least, they have a vested interest in their people and they'll let him do what he needs to for the
He would vote for Obama a third time if he could.
He would absolutely vote for Obama a third time if he could. And now he's seeing the consequences of that, I think, is where he's at. And Kizaru, in a lot of ways, is in a similar boat because now, this time, everything is going to hell in a handbasket in front of him. And anything that he's had any kind of remote attachment to is on this island and pretty much done. He said multiple times, I'm here to kill Vegapunk. I'm here to do these 3 things. Please don't get in my way. Please don't make me do this. Hey, let's not get all of the Marines killed. Hey, let me have it out with Sentomaru. Let me explicitly not kill Sentomaru. I think he's trying to follow his orders, but do it. He's trying to be a good cop. And can't really. So now he's doing what every single other I'm going to try to be a good cop Marine in this series has had to do. And that's, okay, this one time, I swear to God, only one time, I'm going to let Straw Hat do something. And I'm just going to pretend I'm not looking at it. And like, that's kind of where I think he's at right now.
In the terms of the how, because I bet some people are wondering, like, well, where did he get the food? we two things have been established. One, that like we've seen food be generated like on the island, like literally like when Luffy, like Atlas showed them how to do it and everything. I think that's why Atlas is kind of a red herring for
like I don't even like yeah, Atlas I believe is just to remind us of the machines that make food. But like the man moves at light speed.
Yes, and I think he's pretending not to be able to move at this point. And so I think that that's easily the how. And he would know how this stuff works because he lived on Egghead, so that's not a stretch at all. So I think the how is definitely fine. The why is a little bit like murky, but there's good theorizing. I think it still works. I don't have a better counter. Like I can't think of somebody else who would fit. Like, are we gonna have Shaka come back from the dead? Of course not. Like it's
I mean, it's One Piece. Let's be reasonable here. It's entirely feasible.
Not that Shaka would still be alive, I guess, but that's that like it would be that random. I don't know. But yeah, not a lot of suspects left. But I think that that's a strong. Yeah.
It's just it's. I think it's a way to keep Kizaru ambiguous enough, which could also then mean that this is entirely a red herring, and it's somehow else someone did this. I don't know, but to me, it's a Smoker situation, or a Fujitora situation where it's like, hey, oh man, I gotta take you in, but like, do I, kind of thing, and yeah. And we can have that without like Kizaru joining the crew, right? Like,
yeah, and I do think, I do think that one thing we're set up to see as well, like this chapter is setting up Bonney seeing Luffy in his Nika form, and that reinvigorating her ability to be Nika-like, because we've seen it falter, and it's been established. And I love this about her Devil Fruit of like the older and more cynical she gets, the fewer possibilities she has. It's like she gets weaker as she gets older. That's a really great hook for this character, a really great sort of like a fascinating layer to her that does differentiate her from other characters, but it also has an opportunity to show like what she can do when she's inspired by Luffy, which is such a central crux of that character. The whole point of his dream to be the king of the pirates and everything along those lines fits in perfectly with her getting to finally witness that properly, especially in this moment where we can kind of walk through what's about to happen. And I still can't believe we're at a moment where one of the Gorosei is like on the battlefield. Like I'm still kind of getting like goosebumps about it. I'm still kind of like struggling to accept that we're in this stage right now.
Manga is one of the only mediums where like an old man does a thing and everybody is just absolutely pogface about it the whole time. Like, oh my God. like it's buck wild, man. It's nuts that we are here. One of the things that I, not to loop all the way back to the anime here, but like the OP for the new arc it does this really spectacular job of telling the audience that like this is the moment where all of these disparate threads we've been cutting to over and over again start to knot. Like they're starting to intersect in ways we can no longer avoid. And like coded right into the lyrics of the song, like this stuff that's happening with Sabo that doesn't look like it matters, and you're going to find out why now. Like,
yeah.
And it's happening in real time. I don't think when people saw the Gorosei introduced, and we've had decades worth of theory crafting since then, but like when the Gorosei were introduced, I don't think anybody saw them as like antagonists in the same way that you would see like NL, who got introduced around the same time, right? Like
that's actually a great segue into this comment from so this is from Bionic Ranger, who said Saturn is now above Doflamingo on the despicability tier list. I mean, did we do our villains thing too late?
Yeah, we finally got one over on, because I've argued before, like Doflamingo is the tip top villain because like it's so gross, and of course that was just Oda laying the necessary groundwork for this guy. I love how bad Saturn is, by the way. I also love that specifically Oda made sure that they clarified that he wasn't Bonnie's father, because I didn't need that.
We could finally put that to rest. No, but you're right. I think that that it's good that Oda is like, not every villain is sympathetic. Not every villain it has a good reason. Sometimes villains are just villains.
Even to that point, with the celestial dragons as a concept, they're almost humorlessly like they're kind of a caricature, right, of like the ruling class, of like the monarchy as a concept. English monarchy, it feels like, with all the inbreeding specifically, but yeah, it's one of those things where, like, if you were to confront the, I guess in a lot of media, maybe you'd agree with me here, you see a lot of times where like the tippy top bad guy doesn't necessarily believe in the larger ideology of stuff. They're like, yeah, I know it's kind of bupkis, but I'm just evil anyway, or I'm just trying to fill my pockets, kind of thing, where it almost undermines the theme, because like you need your tippy top villain to be a little bit smarter or a little bit more threatening, so they're a little bit more nuanced.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the nuance of the Gorosei is that they believe it even harder. He's like, y'all are literally insects. Why does he tell the Marines to shoot Bonney dead? Because he doesn't want to get his own foot dirty. Like, why bother? Like he messes with Kuma because it's funny to him. It's like literally being a kid with a magnifying glass on an anthill. Like, he believes what the celestial dragons believe to the absolute degree, which means the rest of the Gorosei do, and boy howdy, whatever Emu's actual deal is going to be some real effed up stuff. Like,
Yeah.
and I think that that's great. I think that, like, just cold cocked, no, I'm a guy who experiments on children for fun, and I'm proud of that. And like, I'm not being ironic. I'm not trying to be a caricature. I'm just like that. I'm that guy. Deal with it. And
I'm a spider guy who calls other people insects. I don't care.
Yeah, right. Big talk, man. Yeah. You're the one with 8 legs right now. I know spiders are not insects. Okay.
Yeah. We watch Spider-Man. We know the insults.
But like, it's like, you're the guy with extra legs right now, man. And I realize this is a world where like anything is possible at this point, but like, you're the bug man right now. So it's so wild that like all of this is happening all at once, and it's just revealing so much about these characters. Like, it's ironically a lot of exposition. But we don't even care because it's compelling.
I have another argument for Bonney joining the crew. Here it is.
Oh, okay.
Well, Black Knight Halberd 42 said, I really thought Saturn was going to be Bonnie's biological father with the wife number 8 thing, but unless the translation's wrong, I stand corrected. And, well, Travis, I know that we know that there is a possibility that Bonnie's father could be from the Figureland Garling family. And so how fun would that be if like some of the Shank stuff are going to Elbaf? If we're going to do any of that, we would have Bonney along, who could be a member of that family, and that could expand. I mean,
the details of that particular situation are still, for me, the lowest point of this arc. So I would prefer we not revisit it. I personally, I would love to just move on, because okay, to the point about like Saturn and the Gorosei being like the tippy top of evil, et cetera, et cetera. There are things that Oda knows not to depict, right?
Yes.
Not just this particular thing. We saw. I mentioned back in Wano, there is this great shot where like we see like a noose, and it's just implied. What's happening there is implied. Like, there are things where you break you like, everybody's suspending their disbelief. This is a show about a rubber man. It's a story about a rubber pirate. So like, we suspend a lot of disbelief, but there are, I think, some lines where once you start crossing them, it gets much more difficult for people to buy into this, and all they're going to want is vengeance. If this man is identified, I don't know that Oda could actually reasonably, within the confines of the story that he's built, give the satisfaction that the reader would expect. Because what the reader would expect is stuff that I cannot reasonably speak out loud on this podcast. Like, it is the kind of thing where we have left the confines of a fun pirate manga that's about a lot of things, and we have firmly, much like Bonney learning about the world right now, entered a world where the fantastical no longer can happen. And that is a dangerous place to play it. If he, I choose to trust the storyteller in this, but I would prefer us not play with that fire, just because it's not. I mean, for one, Gen Z is not going to have it. For two, like, again, I just feel like we could be doing other things. If Bonney were to join the Straw Hats, I would prefer her to get to do something new, and live, rather than have to keep looking back. I would love, if she does join this, I would love for this to be the moment she gets over her crap, because we only have so much time left to do anyway, and like everything is to her the best day ever for the rest of the journey, because she's finally free of all of that. If we're going to do this, and we're going to do this because we need a cabin girl or something, then it should be in service of her as a child, I think, and protect. I loathe to say protect her, because that's not really the point, and also, like, we have other children on this boat already, but like to fulfill her, I think, would be a much better purpose for her on the crew than to, let's make this Shank stuff more complicated. I
hey, no argument for me, because all this talk is just you kind of talking more and fitting in and accepting more of this whole idea of being on the crew. So.
Every time I talk about this, it happened last week too. I think every time we talked about this, I end up just talking myself into it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what happened to me. I mean, it's infectious. It's our version of getting sapphire scales, I guess. You're seeing the light.
Yeah. Yeah. We mentioned translations, though. I do want to point out the Viz release does have a translation error, which is funny to me.
It did come out early,
it's
so
like
that's
right
what I tracked
around
it
the same. It is it's 100% like a typo, or like a mistype somewhere, or mistranslation somewhere, very easily corrected, but they misgender Bonney as a result, and it's very funny to me. That just like they thought it was Kuma,
of course, and
they needed to shoot or something. And
well, we do have Yamato on the cover, so we might as well create controversy.
What is gender? What is gender at this point? So it's funny we're talking about like, the translation confirms that Saturn isn't her father. Also on the next page, they call Bonney a him.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Wonderful, good job, me always advocating for the official translation.
But we still recommend
use the official translation. Yeah, no, yes, because the thing is like Viz can go correct that. Because Shueisha could be like, hey, just so you know, this was meant to be this. And they can go fix that, unless it's Zoro's name. But like, because, there's that official relationship where Oda's team can get something corrected. Whereas fan translation is just at the mercy of their own, and, I don't want to disparage people putting their own knowledge to work, especially like to learn the language and do that for fun to learn the language. I think that's really cool. But yeah, that's why we use the official translation, so that we don't do an hour-long podcast about Saturn being Bonnie's dad.
Well, now that we're reaching an hour, let's or a little past an hour, let's finish out with a little bit of stuff from the Discord. And then we'll call it. So King of the Pirates and Requetsiton both agree that, I got the sense that King of the Pirates put it out there. It was like, y'all think it was Kizaru that snuck Luffy the food? Requetsiton said yes, and their argument was he changed pose, thought about Bonney and Sentomaru, and his bowl was there. So it looks like the Discord is team Kizaru here. I didn't see any pushback on that. Hippo said it was an amazing chapter. Although, actually, no, Hippo did push back a little bit and said, it is the lurking legend himself. Kirby was unfortunately coming in clutch again. And then asked, do you think Bonney could actually tap into the Nika power if understands that Luffy's Gear 5 is Nika? So, yeah, we kind of touched on that. I think that's certainly like been set up. And then I think, you even chimed in there and agreed. Hippo also said Saturn said that she doesn't know the connection between Luffy's Gear 5 and Nika. I assumed that meant she could fully imagine Nika, and this was weak. I don't know what she would have to see with Gear 5th. I don't know, because she did the Nika dance. I feel like there's potential there for her to like see it happening. Could be something specific.
To me, it's an issue of perspective, right? Where like she's learned more about what the real world is. You know what I mean? And so because she's learned more about the real world, the idea that Nika could be real, like she's in a fit of despair. She
Yeah, yeah.
can't imagine that. I don't think it's in the Discord I talked a little bit about, like, if she finds out that the Nika powers are just a devil fruit, can she imagine herself having an extra devil fruit or a different devil fruit? Or does knowing that it's just a devil fruit, does it remove the illusion and make it weaker? I think
Yeah.
that's as much a possibility as the reverse, because that's what it is. Like, the more, like, not just physically she gets older, but just the reality of reality. You listener probably know what I'm talking about. Once upon a time, the world was your oyster. Pokemon were real. You were gonna be a spaceman, and now you don't do those things because the world is real. That's what I think is the point here. Is like Bonnie's Devil Fruit is so powerful in a way similar to Luffy's because of her childlike nature, both literally as a child and also her personality. So if things happen to her that make her miserable, then that's going to make it more difficult for her to use her powers, which is why the work that Kuma put in to protect her is kind of the thing that works best for her now. Is like that's the thing that made her capable of surviving this long, I think, is his love to protect her childhood, as like, no, you're going to grow up. I'm not going to burden you with the truth of all of this. As much as like you could criticize him for lying to her, I think the case here is that he did the right thing.
Well, that'll do it. I think the right thing for us is to call it and reconvene for 1104, which is going to be coming out as we record this. The official will be out in 12 days. And Travis, I know we got a little bit of we got a break time. We have some content avenues we could go down. We could do our best anime of the year episode. We could talk about Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, which I did watch and finish. We could talk about I'm not ready yet for Jujutsu Kaisen season 2. Here's the thing, I haven't finished it, but I've made progress by inches, so I'm moving along.
I would not have let you watch that on your vacation. You think getting COVID would ruin your vacation?
Well, I didn't watch it on my vacation because it wasn't available in that country, so that was one of the ones I couldn't watch. But I was able to see Delicious in Dungeon, which I enjoyed a lot. Still want to see Solo Leveling as soon as I can. So yeah, we got plenty of stuff on the docket, but of course, you should probably do this little thing. We saved the best for last, didn't we? If you if you wanted to talk to us and be like more, in line with, hang out with us, maybe like you could email us. We do have an email. It's rookiepiratradio@gmail.com. Don't worry, Travis. I'll say it again. I know you forgot to write it down. The last 100 episodes we've done, but we haven't done 100 episodes. We've done like 50 something, but no, we haven't even done 50. It hasn't been a year, so we've done a few of them. Anyway, rookiepiratradio@gmail.com is how you do that. And then, you can, all you have to do to hang out with us in like an online server is just go to our MySpace. Right, Travis? MySpace?
That's it. MySpace.com. I'm gonna have to see if MySpace is still active and actually make a Rookie Pirate Radio MySpace now.
Oh my gosh, yeah, just and then it redirects
to our Discord server, which is in the show notes, and you could come hang out with us, and also with the other writers and editors of In Between Drafts as we talk about everything from movies, books, TV, and more. There's been a lot of fun conversations in the Games channel about the Steam Deck this week, and other things coming out of CES, and we're gonna do some fun things. So come hang out.
MySpace is dead. Last thing that they put out was March 14th, 2022. Apparently they tried to make it like a whole news website, and people have tried more difficult things, I guess. So there's that. I don't think my profile is still on here, for what it's worth.
It's probably for the best.
Yeah, I mean, nobody needs to listen to My Chemical Romance while scrolling a web page.
I mean, I do, but I can replicate that experience.
Yeah, I mean, if I Google John Negroni MySpace, it doesn't pop up. So,
yes, probably for the best for both of us that our MySpaces cannot be found.
Oh well, yeah, maybe next time, maybe the next startup. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back soon. And again, you can hit up our Discord if you want to hang out with us and give us suggestions, talk about these chapters, and then some. We do have an Allie Johnson sighting. She is in Thriller Bark, and she Nothing happened.
Yeah,
I was so tempted.
They are out now. They're on the tail end of that now. So
be like, it's kind of fitting that like the arc you're on right now, like it's kind of serendipitous, but fate.
Oh yeah,
fate is such a strange thing.
I was hyping her up because I'm gonna this arc of One Piece that's on right now. It's my entire personality now, and I can't talk to you.
It's a shame, but follow along with that, of course, in the Discord and then some. And we'll see you all again later. Bye, everybody.